Writing at its best is a lonely life. Hemingway said that, and he was an accomplished novelist. Imagine what it must be like for a struggling screenwriter. And not even in New York or Los Angeles, but in Las Vegas of all places. It's difficult and it's thankless, and the self-confidence it requires dies in isolation. I need a drink just thinking about it. Fortunately, this is a town full of bars, the writer's natural habitat. I'm Matt Sorvillo, and I'm a writer. And this is my attempt to combat the loneliness and self-doubt by commiserating with other writers, sharing our personal stories, and hopefully learning from each other's successes and failures. This is Notepads and Bar Tabs. Today, I'm going to go get a drink with my old friend Scott Johnson. I've known Scott since the late 90s. He's a talented actor and writer.
So, where are we going?
I've got a place in mind. I've got it picked out.
Not even a hint?
No. So this is ReBAR. Have you ever been here before?
A couple of times, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
well, I
bar.
picked this bar for you because of everyone I know, you are the funniest person, hands down. And
Yeah.
The concept behind ReBAR is just so quirky and so funny. It just seemed to suit you. Everything here, the decor, the furniture, it's all for sale. And it's all secondhand. It's all getting a second chance at fulfilling its purpose. That speaks to me of our friendship because we used to be friends years ago.
Yes.
We went to school together, and then I got kicked out of school, and that sort of faded. But years later, you married a dear friend of mine. You started dating my friend Heather, and despite my many warnings to stay away from you, you guys, you wound up getting married, and she made the right choice, and I'm so thankful for it because it has given us an opportunity to be friends again, and that's why I picked ReBAR for you. You ready to go inside?
I certainly am.
All right, let's go. Well, first, when did you know that you wanted to be a writer?
I think probably when I was in my junior year of college, I took a playwriting class.
That late in your life, you finally decided to...
Well, I think I decided to take it seriously rather than just be something of like, oh, I wrote a funny idea or I did, But I was really focused on just acting at that, before then. And through my degree, I had to take a directing class.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, that's kind of neat also.
See, that's one of the things that I hated about college was that we had to take all these pointless prerequisites before we could take any of the classes that I was actually interested in, like playwriting.
Which I took later in my college.
Which I never got around to.
Right.
Even when I was in those acting classes, it was a conduit. It was a pathway to write better. Like, I was already writing screenplays in my teens that were terrible. They were awful. But I knew that I didn't understand what it was going to take to perform this stuff. And so I started taking those classes, and that was a dismal failure. But of course, I always wanted to be Harrison Ford. Everyone should want to be Harrison Ford. But I never really felt like I had acting in me, but I wanted to. But it seemed like a lie, whereas writing, I've always wanted to do that.
Yeah, and I think I've always wanted to tell stories.
Yes.
And I was content telling other people's stories for the longest time. I think in college I was introduced to playwrights that were drinking coffee with me and talking with me, and not just these things that were, unattainable. They're just in a book, and you will learn that this is Tennessee Williams. He died long ago. Go ahead, or what have you. And so, talking with them and going, well, you don't know what you're doing either. Well, I could do that.
Sure.
You start writing and you go, I don't know if I can do that. Holy shit. I wrote a 10, it wasn't even a 10-minute play. It was supposed to be little 10-minute plays.
Sure.
I think it was probably 7 because I couldn't go any further. And I was like, no, it's done. I watched and I cringed the whole time, and not at what the actors were doing. I was like, oh, that could have been so much better. Because I would say all my lines, but I know how I said them. But how I would say them is sometimes not the way I wrote them. And so to learn that, to where like, oh man, I meant this. Damn it.
See, I kind of envy that because despite all that I've written, I still haven't seen someone actually trying to bring it to life. One of the big struggles that I find, and it's an internal struggle, is that I'm only coming up with a blueprint. I don't have a complete thing. When my job is done, at the end of my day, and it's not a day, it's a year or a year and a half or however long the process takes, when it's done, it's still just a recipe. There's nothing there to enjoy. There's not a film to watch. There isn't a cookie to eat. I am obsessed with film primarily. And so my father, who is where I get this passion for film from, he doesn't understand how I can watch bad movies. And I love watching bad movies because I learn more from bad movies than I ever will from a good movie. I watch a good movie and I just sit there awestruck going, oh my God, why didn't I write this? Whereas watching a bad movie gives me ideas. I'm like, oh wow, why did they do that? Or how is this character even here?
Yeah.
You know?
I sometimes feel when something is so good, I'm almost intimidated because you're like, how did you do that? How did you figure out how to tell that moment? Because that's a real personal moment for me, and I didn't realize anyone was in the room when that happened except for me. How did you know so much about me? And then you're like, oh, I can't do that. But that's just that inner doubt telling you, because the writer, whoever it was, probably at one part writing that scene went, this is shit.
Yeah.
What am I doing?
You have a family.
Oh, yeah.
Where's your support come from? Do your kids encourage you? Does Heather encourage you?
Oh, certainly. Heather really encourages me. And, my kids definitely now, they know when Dad's in the loft, to kind of give me my space. It took a while. Like when they were younger, I would make sure, okay, everybody, you have a juice. The show is on. You've eaten. The potty has been had. Dad is going to sit down. I need 10 minutes, and I would sit
Jesus
down.
Christ, 10 minutes? What do you do with 10 minutes?
I mean, just
I will sit down. I will sit down, and I will rewrite the same sentence for hours, and then I'll look up and I'll be like, "How is it night?"
I will do that. Like now I do that, but. This was when they were younger. I was writing a lot of sketch comedy.
Yes.
That
sounds like something you would do.
I've thought about it so much that I just need to get it out, or I could tinker with it, or I just need to. Someone would send me a script, and they were like, "Can you punch this up?" And they're 2 minutes. They're 2 pages, 3 pages, and it's like, because you can't really do. No one wants to watch a 15-minute skit. No matter how good it is, at a certain point you're like, this is no longer a skit.
Obviously you have things that you've written that have been awful, because everyone does.
Oh yeah.
But you must have things that you're proud of. What are your strongest suits? But you know what I mean? Like, what is it that you're good at?
I think I'm good at dialogue.
Yes.
And I think that might be spending so much time in the theater with dialogue, with either masters of dialogue or bad dialogue.
Does that hinder you? Because, depending on what you're writing, and I always have a tendency to think for screen, my struggle with dialogue is I can make people sound fairly natural, but then I'm explaining things instead of showing things in a visual medium, and it's something that I'm struggling with every time I sit down. I'm like, whoa, why is this guy telling the story to the audience? And I feel like there's like an overemphasis on the importance of dialogue.
Well, but I do think that there are times when people just tell stories.
Sure.
Now everybody can't, it can't say like, "Hey, do you remember last Tuesday we were eating that sandwich?"
Sure.
Nobody speaks that way.
No, look,
you can tell stories
Within a
in
story.
a way, within a story.
Well, look, there are examples of that I mean. I don't know if you ever watched that show Justified, which I thought was fantastic.
Yeah, great show.
But I mean, every episode, someone, whatever situation they were in, as improbable as that situation was, someone would tell a story in the middle of the situation that was just the perfect parable for that moment. You know, and that's great. That's awesome. But
they do that in like hospital dramas, like Grey's Anatomy. The guy's having a heart attack and everything's over, and then someone will tell a story. You lost this one today, but then they tell this story.
I don't know. It just
and it makes
typically
sense, but
I guess
nobody really does that in real life. But nobody wants to watch.
Well, you can do it now if you want to tell me a story.
I don't want to tell you a story.
Okay.
When I first start a project, I do a lot of like just verbal diarrhea in a notebook, putting out everything that I can think of.
But where are you when this happens? I mean, are you like sequestered in your office? Are you out,
normally
in a coffee shop? Or
I either write at home or I'll go to a coffee shop. Okay. I have a loft in my house that has a desk.
You make it sound like happenstance.
Yeah, it happened to have a desk. It's right next to a window. No, I mean, I'm not tied there because I use a laptop.
Sure.
I used to have a desktop that I needed to write in the bedroom because that's where it happened to be because the house was tiny. I like to write at coffee shops because at home I have a tendency to get trapped by housework and laundry. Even when the kids aren't there, I get a lot of writing done when they're at school. I drop them off, come home, pot of coffee, and sit and write until school lets out. But I've got to get laundry. Oh, I should probably get the dishes done. Oh, I should do all this. And then it's 2 PM. I haven't written, and the kids get out in an hour and a half.
Typically, I need noise. Like if I'm thinking about a problem, sitting alone and staring at a blank page is just the worst thing that I could possibly do, which is why I tend to write in coffee shops. I also tend to write primarily in notepads and then have to transfer
it. I do a lot of that where I'll have notepads and I write in a weird, and I'm sure you do as well, a shorthand of like, I think if somebody found my notebook, it wouldn't look like it was English.
Oh yeah, these are the ravings of a mental patient.
Yeah. When I finally sit down at the computer, I type a lot out, and a lot of that gets thrown away.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, oh no, that's all, I processed through all of that
My phone is very little more than a delivery system for finding out what my actual work schedule is, and just text messages to myself of ideas I've had that, a bit of dialogue, and I'll never use it. It's all crap. I just send myself crap. And then I feel like writing in a lot of ways isn't like building a thing. It's more like mining. You have to, like, if you owned
you got to get all the
if you owned a gold mine, you just got to get all this
out.
Garbage out of the way before you find that one little nugget that you need. So I'm constantly texting myself things that will never see the light of day.
I do enjoy the coffee shop, like you said, with the noise. When I'm at home, I listen to music. I listen to a lot of...
See, I can't listen to music as I write. It's like I'm listening to someone else's words.
I don't listen to words.
Okay.
I listen to instrumental.
Okay.
I listen to a lot of scores, bands that are just do instrumental music I put on, and just so that it's a noise in the background.
The more you talk about that, just having a sound around you, I don't think that's what it is for me. I think the reason I write in coffee shops is because otherwise I am aware of how alone I am. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
At least in a coffee shop, there are other people around. I might make eye contact with someone. People are seeing me do my thing, even if they're unaware of what's happening on my desk.
You might be doing an Excel spreadsheet or something.
But at least I'm out and I'm about, and there are other people there. Because honestly, it's just like, I spend an awful lot of time at my kitchen table, just because it's a lot brighter than my office with natural light. And it's lonely, and I just feel so disconnected from the world at large. Like I'm living in this fantasy land, and I'm living vicariously through people who don't exist, and I need to get out of the house. I just recently turned 40. I've been at this for quite a long while with very little to show for it. And I know that I can't stop. You know what I mean? It's something that I must do. If I could stop, I would.
Yeah,
but my point is, I'm either going to succeed or I'm going to strive forever. And then it'll end. And at the end, am I going to look back and go, man, this was just a complete waste?
No.
Well, I mean, I hope not. I don't think so. I don't think I ever had a choice. You know what I mean?
So I was going to say, are you writing because you want success, or are you writing because you need to write?
Both.
Because you like to tell stories?
Both.
Now, I think that...
The thing is, success means someone has read your story. Success means someone has enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Okay? And so just writing it and never achieving success, that's just screaming into the void.
Yeah, you can't
that's just futility. This is art. Art needs someone to view it. Needs someone
needs
to...
an audience, or it doesn't.
Am I devoting myself as much as I am to a thing that will never reach fruition? And is that a sad life?
I don't...
Because I think it could be. I'm okay with it.
It could be, but I don't think it necessarily is. I think that essentially, you know, your process of writing and making these things, there are plenty of creators that you know today had no success in their life, per se. What is it, like Van Gogh sold 0 paintings?
Ideally, I would be alive to appreciate the success.
Yes, and you know, perhaps it's one of those things where when you have a drawer of 50 screenplays and you go, you know what, I'm gonna just make one. I'm just gonna make one. Because
I hate that so bad. It sucks that and you know what? It's the beauty of it that in this day and age, anybody can grab a camera and a bunch of lights and film a thing. I think that's a myth. Because I think I'm sure that there are people who are doing it, but I'm not those people. I'm a writer. I don't want to be behind a camera ever.
But the thing is, you are trying to enter a field that is a collaborative art form.
Absolutely.
And if you're not gonna, but you've got to let them. You got to collaborate them.
Well, no, but I would love to collaborate.
Point.
No. I get that. I would love to. I love the idea of collaboration. At the same point in time, though, I want to write a story, and then I kind of want to wash my hands. And I've been taught that that's what a screenwriter is supposed to do.
Right.
On the totem pole of Hollywood, screenwriters are below ground. You have no say, dude. You wrote a thing, that's great. We bought it, now it's ours. Go away.
We're gonna do whatever it is.
I am forever reading books on writing. It's like a compulsion. I see one, even if I know it's going to be garbage, I buy it, and it's in a constant effort to just hedge my bets. I'm trying to improve in any way I possibly can. And is this something that you obsess over like I do? Or?
Yeah, I find I've read very little technical books on writing. I kind of seat in my pants, but every time a writer talks about their work, anytime there's an interview at the back of a book, I have a tendency to read that first.
Sure.
How did I get here? What have I done? And because I want to know. But I don't necessarily want to know what the pedantic teacher in front of a class is saying.
I think that's the difference. Like, you have the benefit of a formal education, whereas I got kicked out of school and I'm just like groping around for lifelines. And I buy these books and some of them I'm just like, this is garbage. I'm reading it going, this is god awful.
And maybe I read enough of that in college, where I was like, that's shit. That doesn't matter.
If you're not approaching it the way I am, if you're not just reading everything you possibly can about writing, are you everyone wants to get better. What are you doing to try? How do you improve yourself?
I just try to keep writing. Because, I think every writer that I read their advice. One of my favorite books was that Stephen King On Writing.
On Writing. It's a great fantastic book. And it's not even a tutorial. No. It's just about the life of a writer.
It was just like, here's what I've done. It probably won't work for you because this is what I did.
The thing is, everyone says do what works. And that's
what
awesome
works
advice.
Is the work.
Yeah.
What almost all of them, they're like, write it, but finish it.
Finish
all of them. You have 10 screenplays and you finished your own. Go finish the other 8. You're going to learn more. You're going to do more. You have a novel you did. Finish it.
Do you actually enjoy it?
At times.
Yeah.
There are moments that I love it, and this is what I was meant to do. And there are moments when.
Only moments?
It is a chore.
There are only moments.
No, there's a lot of times when I find myself avoiding it. I'm like, look at those dishes. I'm gonna go do those dishes.
I can't.
And then I'm like, fuck, I gotta get those pages done. And I go sit down, and it's like going to the gym. The hardest part for me going
Is
to the
getting up and
gym
going.
is driving to the gym.
Yeah.
And once I'm there, I'm like, I enjoy this. This is great. And then
man.
you go home and you're like, I have accomplished something.
Like-
And that's the way I feel about writing.
Really?
Yeah, like it's sometimes a chore, but once I'm doing it, I enjoy it. Even when I look and all I do for 4 hours is move commas around.
There are times when it's a legitimate joy. There are times where
Yes.
it brings me bliss and I feel great. And I know it's fleeting. And I know in 2 days I'm going to reread it and just hate it.
But that's okay because
No, it is okay, but-
because sometimes that moment when you break the story, when you go, "Oh my
No,
God, I
are
know what happened."
There are things I'm proud of, and there are just these moments that I love, and it's why. No, it's not why I do it. I do it because it's a compulsion. But
No, yes, it's a compulsion, sure, but you do it because you're meant to do
But it's
it.
a
You're meant to
struggle.
tell a story.
Oh, yeah. Look, I believe that.
There are plenty of people out here, and like they say, everybody's got a story in them. Sure, but nobody gives a shit to tell it.
you're getting stronger just by writing.
I think I get stronger by every piece of garbage I put out, and
Okay.
then realize that it's bad,
Uh-huh.
and then try and fix it. I think what is it?
So what's good,
that
though?
stupid rule? I don't know.
No, what have you done that's
what
good?
have I done?
Yes.
I think I wrote tons of sketch, and some of them were garbage. Some of them were hilarious for one line, and I said, "This is a funny joke."
Do you regret that that's not part of a larger work?
No, because it's literally a 2-minute joke.
I understand,
As soon
but-
as it gets, to me, the problem with a lot of comedy movies that you watch is you were like, this is funny for like 5 minutes.
And the gag just goes on
And-
too long.
And then they keep going, and you're like, you sold this 5-minute gag, and then you had to write an hour and a half, didn't you?
Mm-hmm.
And sure, there are moments that are funny, but the joke doesn't sustain that long. There are certain pieces that are only going to be a 30-second walk-on piece, and then you walk out, and the audience goes, "That was great!" But if you kept milking it, they'd hate you for it.
My brother, who I've written with in the past, and who's I really think only ever did it to try and understand me better.
Okay.
He and I will talk about the cookie. Like, he'll write a thing and he'll hand it to me, and I'll be like, "Okay, what is this exactly?" He's like, "Just read it and tell me what you think. I just need the cookie." And that's all
He
we
just
want.
wants you to go, "That was
I'm-
nice."
But I'm the same way. It's like, look, I just need someone to read this. Someone out there validate me. Give me some sort of response. And sadly, I have a couple of friends that I can reliably get to read anything I've written, because honestly, they've enjoyed what I wrote in the past.
Right.
Typically, though, they're laymen, and so I appreciate that they are the audience. You know what I mean? People who show up to a
yeah.
theater don't know what's going on behind the curtain, and they don't care.
Certainly, yeah.
And so their opinion is important, but again, because they don't know enough to give good criticism or suggestions, they're just like, "Oh, it was great, I loved it." Well, what about it did you love? You know, what about?
But
you
that
need
also, at times, that is the reward, is that you
the reward is forcing someone to
No. No,
by
but
threat of friendship that you must
put it out there,
Uh-huh.
and they enjoyed it.
Yes.
You gave them something they enjoyed.
Yeah.
Now, like, look, as a bartender,
Yes.
someone says, "I want a Mai Tai," and you give them a Mai Tai.
Sure.
You take the pieces, you put it together, and they take a drink. Half the time, they're not even going to go, "This is good, thanks." They're going to just walk away. But
As a bartender, the only validation you need is a tip. That's it.
Listen,
Yeah.
there's that old thing that anything that people would do for free, they call it playing.
Uh-huh.
So you act in a play, you play an instrument, you play a sport. But
yeah.
these are professional things that
Uh-huh.
people do.
Yes. And they work very hard at.
And they work incredibly
Yes.
hard, sometimes harder, and because nobody notices all of the hard work.
Yeah.
When you watch a movie, it's 2 hours long. You don't notice the
Decades-
thousands
yeah,
of hours
decades
and
long
decades
overnight
that
success
people- yeah.
stories.
Oh yeah, I mean, in 15 years you're an overnight success,
Yeah.
or whatever it is. That people don't notice the work, but that's also part of the craft, to not show them all of the work. I'm not there by any means. But sometimes, you know, the double-edged sword of the audience clapping
Sure.
for you and giving you praise is when you put something out there that you're like, "This is the funniest thing I've written," or "This is the best thing."
Sure.
You put it out there, and it's a fart in a spacesuit. everyone hates it, or no one in the audience laughs, and you're thinking, what's wrong
I'll be
with
honest with
them?
you, I think I would love some real scorn or maybe contempt just to get that much of a reaction. I submit works to contests, which is the prescribed way of breaking into screenwriting.
Right.
And you know that the people who are reading these things typically are other writers working, living, struggling in LA who have taken this as a job to pay the rent, and
They're just gonna read.
And this is not ideal.
Which, that's not, because half the time, if it's, you don't know if they're going to be jaded, like, oh, I hate this guy because my idea is close to this.
Or I would love to think that they would reject anything that's better than what they themselves have written, but that's ego talking. It's all subjective.
It really is.
It is, and so you're being judged by people who are no one like you. And then before they'll even hand it off to the actual person you want to be judged by. You hear stories about actors who, I was a landscaper and I was doing the lawn of this person who came out and was like, you sir are an actor. You know what I mean?
Well, that's Harrison Ford going back to
with the carpentry.
with the carpentry.
But,
hey, Harrison,
but that doesn't happen with writing because
happen.
But that does not happen with writing because no one accidentally reads your script. A painter sits and paints a mural on a wall and goes, oh, that's actually pretty good. Do you have other things? Oh yes, let me get you a gallery show. Whereas writing, it's like, oh, that's weighty, isn't it?
This is going to take a lot of my time.
Yeah, no one has time for that. No one has time for a writer.
I do, like you said, I enjoy reading a bad story at times. Even I get angry at a bad story, but you enjoy reading it because if this person with all the flaws, and they didn't think it was bad when they turned, maybe they did, but that you hope that they turned in their best work. And if their best work, I feel, well, I can reach that level or beyond, that there might be a chance for me, that I might be able to find that person out there who would read my pitch and say, you know what, this is going to be good because, you did something right here. But I think just doing the work is the only way you'll ever know. And that was when I was younger, I wouldn't complete them. I would brag, I'd say, I'm 25 pages. Oh, I've written 50 pages in here. But it wasn't a story. It was the beginning of a story. And I think that might be what sometimes the bad things have, is they have a beginning, middle, and an end, whether it's good or not. Mine always had a beginning.
They turned in the homework.
Yes. And sometimes that just might be enough.
Do this. This is why I got kicked out of college.